We have this from the Daily Mail. Bud Light's hangover gets worse. Rival Coors Light and Miller Lite sales spike 18% in wake of Dylan Mulvaney debacle. Check this out. Between April 2nd and April 15th, overall volume of sales of Bud Light at bars and restaurants dropped by 34.7%. Can I get a holy crap? That's massive. So the boycott's certainly working. And I don't know what it is, but I mean, I should put it this way. I have an idea of what I think it is. I think what they basically did was they came out and said that Bud Light is the beer for effeminate millennials. Mm-hmm. And so all of these, middle-aged guys was like, I don't drink that. I don't drink Bud Light. Mm-hmm. Bud Light already had a bad reputation for being like piss water.
Yeah.
But who cares? If you're at a bar and you're like, I just want to get drunk. But now it's piss water that's associated with being effeminate and being, kind of uncool. They've effectively made their brand not cool. And so now you've got middle-aged dudes being like, I don't drink that. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's also just like people don't want this stuff politicized, right? It's like it's the same with the NBA or, the whatever. It's like people just like, they're like, give me a break, right? Let me drink my beer. Let me watch my basketball game without being pushed with a political message, whichever side it comes from, although it only comes from one side.
I think that only goes so far. Because we've seen that with a lot of things. Video games, people are still willing to play a video game that gets politicized if they're like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. People are still willing to watch certain TV shows that are like moderately woke to a certain degree, so long as it's not that in your face.
Right.
But when it comes to beer, I think what they did was they just made the beer, they got a very effeminate individual, Dylan Mulvaney, to sponsor it, and that's the image associated with it now.
Yeah.
Well, so if you are a Bud Light drinker, it's like, does some 40-year-old dude at a ball game want to be seen as like a dude at a nightclub with a frilly pink dress? Probably not.
Yeah, you made a point a moment ago about how people will watch something on television even though it's woke because they find it entertaining. Part of the difference is you advertise the things you consume in terms of food or beverage differently than you advertise what you see on TV. You can kind of have a TV show that other people don't know you watch, and so you're watching something a little more woke or people wouldn't expect from you. But if that's the beer you order at the bar, or even if you want to drink that beer in secret, like it's in your fridge, dude.
Seamus
Someone can open it and see.
Reruns of Will and Grace
That's my favorite show ever, of course.
Right. It is a funny show. Yeah. But you're right. Out in public, you have to...
I disavow, by the way, I don't watch Will and Grace. Tim is once again smearing me because Luke was in his DMs crying about the fact that I'm stealing his thunder, and so I'm competition that has to be taken out. But anyway.
What was I talking? I totally lost my train of thought because you were talking about potatoes or something.
I'm sorry. That is see, this is like the kind of racism I have to tolerate every single time I'm here. You were talking about the fact that we were just talking about how people can hide the media that they consume.
Right. When you're out in public and you're drinking a Bud Light, you're making a political statement now.
Do you think how, like, I guess I feel like you have to ask this about every story now, like how much of this stuff has pervaded regular people?
This has. It has. For sure.
It's not just like
I have people
Twitter.
asking me about it when I'm at the casinos or whatever.
Really?
Like I'm at a poker table and people are like, yeah, what's up with that thing? That was weird. Like, I'm not going to drink that. And then there was one where, they have like the lady will come around asking for drinks. And then someone made a crack like, not a Bud Light. And then everybody chuckles. And I'm like, man, like people know this.
Well, it's funny. It used to be that people would be like, people used to ask the question, or I still ask the question that I just asked, which is like, is this just for the terminally online or Normie's getting this? And actually, we're in an age where everybody's terminally online. So,
it's true.
So if it's pervading your bubble, it's pervading a lot of people's bubbles.
But even so, your average person, you don't need to be terminally online to say, why is this guy in a dress and makeup on my beer? And when you talk to a lot of people at the casino or just in general, I can't speak to your casino experience, but you ask them, how did you feel about that Bud Light thing? Or do you support Dylan Mulvaney? Maybe if they're more online, like we are, more into politics, they'll sort of launch into their explanation of why it's bad for the culture. But your average person just like, no, I don't support that. Well, that's weird. I just don't like it. But they won't give you...
Can, right? They're not selling those ones.
No.
Not anymore, no.
They were never selling it.
Right.
Oh.
And so what the left said was, it's all over one commemorative can that wasn't for sale. But it's not. Dylan Mulvaney had a video where he had a stack of beer cans and was smiling and being like, look, drink this stuff. And then I don't even know what March Madness is. So it's like, you are insulting your core market.
Oh, totally.
And then the VP came out and she was like, we don't like this frat humor and we want to change our audience. And it's not only, so that's the thing. I see more than just Dylan Mulvaney. I see they came out and actually spat in the face of their audience. And now the fact that they fired, I'm sorry, I should say, but they put two executives on leave from their marketing team without actually apologizing is they're probably going to the shareholders being like, don't worry, we got rid of these people. But they hate you, their former customer, so much they won't just apologize. Nobody asked them to put anybody on leave. I did not come on the show and say, I demand they remove and fire this woman. I said, just say we're sorry for sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. We didn't mean to be divisive and to upset anybody. And they were like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to quietly remove these people to save our stock because that's what really matters. And then we're going to say nothing to you and hope you just forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for a class of consumer that was higher status in their view. You know, frat guys, they're embodying toxic masculinity and they're bigoted. There's just all sorts of baggage tied up with anything that's involved with fraternity or manhood. And of course, Dylan Mulvaney, it's new, trendy, and supportive of transgenderism, which is the most trendy thing on the planet right now. And those people are just better than you. And that's why we want their money and not yours.
That's right. Because we here at Bud Light are better than you, and we know it.
Exactly, and we need better customers.
No, they know that they screwed up.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at the point where I was saying this earlier, that if they don't issue a formal apology by this week, and I'm not saying to fire anybody, I'm not saying to write a 500-page manifesto. I'm saying outright just be like,
manifesto.
we are sorry for sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. We hope to retain you as customers. We apologize for a divisive ad. You know, thank you and have a nice day. I'd be like, okay, that's it. That's fine. That's all. That's it.
I think a lot of people wouldn't, though. I think there is really like a bad taste that's been left in people's mouths.
At this point, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying at this point, their unwillingness to actually just be like, hey, our bad. We didn't mean to sponsor this person. We didn't know you get pissed off. We did not realize who this person was. We won't do it again. Their unwillingness to say anything close to that says to me, they literally don't care about you and they don't care if they get you back. So I'm like, at this point, I'm not a Bud Light guy. I'm not an Anheuser guy. I actually really like Modelo, but I don't drink a whole lot. But I will have no problem saying I will never forgive the company if they've gone this far without just being like, hey, we're sorry about this. So what I would like to say is I will never buy another Bud Light again if they don't apologize this week. But I really don't buy Bud Light, so it's kind of meaningless. Yeah. I will say this, the events we're doing, we did this in Texas, we pulled all Anheuser products from the show.
Good for you.
So anybody who came in, they could not buy it. Not that anyone wanted to. We were making fun of Bud Light the whole time.
What do you think the insult is to the consumers exactly? Is it that it's kind of a troll and saying
the consumers
kind of condescending?
The consumers got mad. Mm-hmm. They said, hey, we're upset about this. So Bud Light goes, I got an idea. Let's ignore them. Mm-hmm. Then the boycott persisted over the holiday weekend. And the pundits were like, whoa, this is crazy. Conservatives don't normally do this. So then Bud Light was like, let's keep ignoring them. Mm-hmm. Then on Friday, they came out and said, we don't like to be divisive. Thank you. And everyone's like, what is this statement? It's nothing. Then they put out a commercial about a horse running through America, and it runs to New York to never forget 9/11. And it was insulting to do. I started getting Budweiser ads, and I'm like, what is this? Just say sorry. Yeah. So now what's insulting is they keep doing these things without apologizing, as if we're too stupid to realize what we're upset about. And instead of apologizing, they put two marketing execs on leave. That only assuages the fears of shareholders and not customers. And now we're going on to week 3 without them saying, sorry about that, guys. Mm-hmm. They're clearly at a point where they're like, if we lose this customer base, so be it. F them.
Mm-hmm. The thing is that, while I can understand why Bud Light drinkers would be insulted by the company, Dylan Mulvaney himself, I'm just going to say himself, is just this walking insult to half the population of the country of women,
but also trans people.
And also trans people. Absolutely, he's a parody of trans people.
Yep,
and he's like think if you did this, he's like a jigaboo for women. People, it's like is that the right word? Like he's just like he's like this the equivalent of a racist.
It's like a modern day minstrel show.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's, and people say it's woman face. I think Dylan Mulvaney is doing trans face.
Right.
I think I don't draw a distinction between the two, but
no, there is. And I know everyone's heard me say it, but I'll explain it just for your sake, Seamus, and for those that may not have heard it. People with gender dysphoria don't sing about their bulges to 10 million people. People with gender dysphoria feel anxiety, and that's what gender dysphoria is. Their body gives them anxiety. Could you imagine an anorexic person making a video being like, look how fat I am, and squeezing their rolls? No, that gives them anxiety. They don't want to be fat. Dylan Mulvaney is the opposite of what you'd actually expect from a person suffering gender dysphoria, singing songs about his bulge.
Right.
What he's done is he's capitalized on the algorithm. He's exploited the left, who will support this to no end, to create a mockery of trans people and women, and then get corporate protection and sponsorship to do it.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable where we're
He's
at.
actually literally a transphobe.
I
don't know if he has. I'm not saying that he has contempt for trans people, but I'm saying that the character that he plays is hateful to trans people.
Right. Like
That's
you were
the
saying,
impact, even if it's not the intent.
Right.
like a minstrel show.
And I think I think his intent is he's a theater kid who found a shtick that's making him rich and getting him a lot of attention. I don't think it's anything more complicated than that.
Yep.
You know.
And Dylan Mulvaney has not posted since the controversy started. So we're now going into week 3 of no posts from Dylan Mulvaney. And I've said this the other day. The people who are in Dylan's life, family members over, need to give him an intervention and be like, stop this. It's going too far. You know, they're, like I mentioned this the other day, there are trans YouTubers pointing out that Dylan's not doing things typically associated with being trans, doesn't appear to be taking estrogen, doesn't appear to be getting actual feminization. So Dylan got facial surgery, but people are pointing out not laser hair removal, which is the cheaper and faster procedure, but permanent. And so the insinuation is Dylan expects this to run its course at some point.
Absolutely. And then it'll be on to the next thing.
Right. And then Dylan will just be a detransitioner.
Yeah.
Or just, whatever.
Yeah.
And Budweiser will have made their bed, and I honestly think there's no way Budweiser gets out of this. They tried doing the Clydesdale commercial to be like, we're patriotic and we love America, but they already have become the brand.
Are you
of
telling
Dylan
me that
Mulvaney.
in addition to the bank industry failing and the entire media failing, Budweiser is going to fail too?
I don't know about failing. I'm just saying their brand is this now. They're the brand of pride parades and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't care about that, but there's going to be a lot of middle-aged dudes who don't want to be that. You know, it's like, why do people dress a certain way? Why do people choose to wear certain clothes? They want to portray an image to other people. Social acceptance is extremely important to people. So for a suburban middle-class dad who wants to be seen as a strong man around his friends, who doesn't want to be seen as weak, pathetic, and effeminate, he ain't drinking Bud Light anymore. Probably never again.
The thing I would take issue with the way you described it before, though, or the thing that I think is just a little bit outdated, is that the idea that you're right, that his performance is completely at odds with the idea of somebody with actual gender dysphoria. But the discourse has moved on to a point where you don't have to have gender dysphoria. That's not, in fact, it's considered insulting by some trans activists to insist that somebody needs to have gender dysphoria to be trans, because it's gone from what was considered a mental disorder to what was considered just kind of like a condition that you could be treated for and healed from, to essentially a lifestyle choice.
Yes.
Right? It's like you just choose. And so Dylan Mulvaney is a very good portrayal of that. Just all you have to do is announce it.
Well, part of the utility of gender dysphoria for the transgender movement and that label is it also did place a pathology on it that a person could be suffering with and trying to escape, whereas the view of them as autogynephiliacs, for example, which many of them are, who knows how you can quantify it, but which is just a person who's sexually aroused by the thought of them being themselves as the opposite sex, is something people are far less comfortable with. Because
don't forget the AAP as well. The AAP, autoandrophils.
Yes, exactly, which is the female variant, a woman who's aroused, conceptualizing herself as a man. Because then what you have to admit is that you are being forced to participate in someone else's sexual fetish.
Which is a lot
harder to justify to the public in the short term. Now, in the long run, if they really do continue to win the culture war in the ways that they have, and we don't keep pushing back, they're eventually just going to start openly admitting, yes, there is autogynephilia and autoandrophilia, and that's okay, and you should still be forced to participate in their fetish.
That's what I think the Leah Thomas controversy was. The NCAA swimmer, the male, was apparently posting things on social media about being, AGP, they call it, which is to imply that this individual is being excited, in a matter of speaking, by forcing other people to participate in this fantasy.
Wow.
Exactly, which is at the very least something we would have called sexual harassment several years ago. Saying, I'm going to go into the women's locker room and force them to say that I'm a woman because that gets me off. That's predatory in and of itself. It's not a question of, is this person going to physically assault someone while they're in there? You're already forcing them to engage in sexual fantasy and role play with you.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.